We have Mike Mayo here, author of the new book Exile on Wall Street and a bank analyst at Credit Agricole Securities. He's here to talk to us about the Volcker Rule and the movie Margin Call. I wanted to ask you, Mike, as an analyst who's covered banks through the financial crisis, what banks did the movie remind you of and why?
I thought of several banks when I watched Margin Call. First, I'd say Lehman and Bear Stearns, because just like what happened in Margin Call where the firm got stuck with mortgages, they didn't want to stay on their books. That's what happened to Lehman and Bear. They always said we're in the moving business, not the storage business. Well, guess what? They wound up storing a lot of these toxic mortgages, just like what happened in the movie. Also, Merrill Lynch didn't have centralized information giving them the full, complete picture of their exposure, just like in the movie. Citigroup, there was head of risk management in Margin Call, did raise a red flag about potential problems that never went anywhere, just like this guy Richard Bowen at Citigroup raised a red flag, and he testified about that to the crisis committee. And then lastly, Goldman Sachs, simply because senior management was very involved, very decisive in making the decisions, first to sell a lot of the toxic stuff. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'd say that would be a similarity with the people in Margin Call. Well, first I just want to say the reason Paul Volcker is my hero is because he was one of the few politicians the last several decades who was willing to take the tough action in the short term, really be criticized. I mean, farmers and tractors drove up in front of the Fed building, and he took the tough action for the betterment of our country for the next several decades. And you don't see too many politicians like that these days. As relates to the Volcker Rule, the intention of it is correct. Let's take some of the risk out. Let's reduce proprietary trading. I mean, the execution, it's just so technical and cumbersome. But in the movie Margin Call, the firm got stuck with a lot of toxic mortgages. Now, to some degree, I'm just guessing here that some of those mortgages would have been for clients, but also they probably had some that was proprietary in nature. So at least that proprietary part would not be the same if the Volcker Rule is implemented successfully.
Tell us, did the movie accurately depict what it is like to be let go of a bank? And what might it say about the layoffs that are going down as a result of some of the reining in of the excessive risk-taking on Wall Street?
Well, you had a little bit of Hollywood in the movie. Once The Office had a host of layoffs, you had Kevin Spacey, head of The Office, clapping hands, and that part wasn't realistic. But having said that, there's a whole lot of realism in the movie. And sitting down with personnel and saying, here, you have one day to decide if you're going to basically sign this form to get your unvested options, and then being escorted out of the office. That's exactly what happened to me. I write about that in Exile on Wall Street. You're literally walked back to your office where you get your bag. In the case of me at Lehman Brothers, I was walked across the floor, down the elevator to the marble area in the base to lobby, and walked through the turnstiles.